This is a great movie. This is, I said it off the top, best movie of the year so far. And for a year that we're very bullish on, this is a godsend that we get this in March, right? We know the back half of this year in the summer is going to be great. But for us to get this in a time where you see the Oscar viewership was down 9% versus last year, people were thinking if anything was going to go up. Um, Obviously, all of the movies last year was better than expected. We have Sinners and One Battle and whatnot, and we're on this high after seeing One Battle and Sinners do so well. But then you have Ryan Gosling and the star that he is, say, "Hey, I'm doing this sci-fi movie that's 2.5 hours, and it's me and a rock, and I'm able to captivate you. I'm able to make you laugh, whether it's me cracking jokes or whether it's physical comedy. But also, I'm gonna give you emotional gut punches too." And this movie had everything, and this it also had the great theatrical experience that we talked about. So this is something where, again, this is a great start for 2026. And for me, initial reaction just coming out, I'm very grateful. And I will say the ending is one thing where I'm a little tired after coming out of the movie, but it's not because it was bad. And I'm a little tired, and we can get into that later. But other than that, like phenomenal.
I love how this movie came out now because I feel like this works as a blockbuster. It has a long runtime. If you get a little bit tired by the end of the movie, it ends in a couple different points. Script isn't perfect, but you could dissect this movie just as a blockbuster. And that's what it felt like. It felt like anyone could enjoy this movie, no matter the age. And I think it was really reflected by our theater that had literally all demographics. And when I saw this, my initial reaction was three things. Like, one thing, there's basically three stars of this movie. One, Ryan Gosling. Two, Rocky. Three, Greg Fraser. That to me are the three stars of this movie. You have Gosling carrying the scenes. You have an all-time puppetry character to play off of with a guy like Gosling that is uber talented and could play off literally a rock. But to have that as a character that was captivating alongside Gosling, and then you had the visuals of Greg Fraser attacking a space movie that was jaw-dropping. I was, once again, that word, grateful that I got to see this in laser IMAX. But I want to say, Gosling, this guy has entered the second phase of his career. He's not doing like these gritty, somber, but also intense type of roles. The psycho drama type of thing, he's kind of letting go. And he's entered this new phase that kind of started with Crazy Stupid Love. It's kept on moving, Barbie, Fall Guy, Gray Man. And I think this is like the peak of his second phase of his career, Project Hail Mary. And I think, first of all, because he's in every scene, because he's unbelievable in this movie, he covers the gamut. Like Phil Lord and Chris Miller combined with Gosling, able to be funny as hell in this movie. He's relatable in this movie, but he's also the smartest guy in the room. He could drop the single tear almost anytime he wants. He has the underlying sadness to him, but he made this movie happen. Like, he is the reason. He is the driving force. 2020, he helped secure the rights to make Project Hail Mary a movie. So he's kind of shouldering this thing, producing it, starring in every scene, and selling and marketing this movie. And he, along with Rocky, is the best part about it. So, like, to me, my takeaway is Ryan Gosling is the freaking man, dude. He is the man, and he's probably my 1-2 favorite actors to go watch.
He's up there. He's definitely up there. It's because he could do everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even though I do miss Sad Boy Gosling, 2049, First Man, even throw Blue Valentine in there or Drive, right? I think like after First Man, 2018, like that was like definitely like, oh, he's getting deep. And then Gray Man happens, Barbie happens, and then he says, "All right, I'm not doing those deep, sad boy movies anymore for my family and whatnot," right? And like again, I mentioned he did Barbie. I was more nervous when I saw the Fall Guy. I was like, "This is what he's going to do." Kind of like what Jake G has kind of done, unfortunately. Not to kill my guy there, another one of our guys, but I was nervous for that. But then I see this project come out, and I'm like, "Oh, that's potential right there. That's potential to do what Matt Damon did with The Martian. Obvious connections there." And Ryan Gosling has the charm, the personality to be on screen for 2.5 hours and it doesn't matter what you would just want to watch Ryan Gosling,
Mhm.
right? He has that star power that is so rare in Hollywood nowadays. It's always been rare, but it's even at rarer heights now, right? And especially in this movie, where there's not even a lot of character backstory. If you really look at it, we
Right.
don't really know a lot about this guy, and no spoilers yet. We don't know a lot about this guy even after the movie, but we already know a lot about Ryan Gosling, and his charm again just takes over. And it could be again him doing quick. It could be like him like bantering with Rocky or Sandra Huller. It could be him doing physical comedy, dancing, or talking into the camera, which you need to do in these solo space movies, like you do in The Martian,
Yeah.
or like you need to do it in these type of sci-fi movies. He's like the perfect guy to do that. So again, not only again is charming and him we us knowing Ryan Gosling on a meta level, but I think also this movie also shows why he's such a good actor because he's still not just goes all Ken here and the goofiness and whatnot. He can still go deeper, like we've seen him do over the past previous decade, right? And that's why I think I know this year is going to be a big year for Best Actor, massive year, but he's going to be in contention.
This movie, I thought of The Martian a lot. And The Martian, like big award season movie, Ridley Scott, Matt Damon, huge cast. And I thought of it because it kept on going back and forth from, isolated guy in space and then what's happening on Earth. But the difference like is the scenes that are happening on Earth are from the past, and the scenes that are happening in space are what is present in the movie. But also, those scenes where he's isolated, those are fun scenes, even though he's isolated. Like you have a charismatic actor like Ryan Gosling, like you had with Matt Damon. But when we were walking out of the theater, we were talking. This movie is going to be immensely rewatchable, and a lot of people rewatch The Martian, but this is like if you had those Damon scenes, but you doubled them and you had a more charismatic actor and you have a cute companion for him to play off of. That like Martian like comparisons are there, but this one rewatchability and also I just love the performance more. And I thought Matt Damon was amazing, and then also I thought of The Martian because music, pop culture references, things like that that make the movie rewatchable too. So I don't know about you. I don't know if you want to go to that level where if you think it's better than The Martian and more rewatchable, but I freaking love this movie. Like even from first viewing, when I watched The Martian in theaters, it still had a little more intensity to it. You have the more Lord and Miller influence on this movie, clearly from the humor. But this one's shot by fucking Greg Fraser, dude. Like, come on.
I know, and I think the one thing with The Martian that helps that one is the storyline where that one he's trying to go home. This one you're trying to save the Earth and you're trying to save the sun,
Yeah.
right? So it's still easy to follow,
It's about the
right?
friendship. Yeah.
And the friendship, right? But that one's like you're trying to go home, and that has the music. I know this has some great music as well in it. This is a good soundtrack, but I think The Martian has that little edge to that. But I was telling you when we were walking out of the theater, I think I need to rewatch The Martian because it's close. I think I prefer this performance
Yeah.
because I think I'm just more of a Gosling guy. That's just personal. I think that just also comes with how old I am. You know, if someone's like 50, they're probably a Damon guy. So when The Martian came out, they probably would, or like let's say if this in the and Project Hail Mary flipped, right? Probably a 50-year-old would say Matt Damon is better in The Martian. But I'm saying as someone that's under 30, no, I like Ryan Gosling. I think it's just like the age thing.
It could be a taste thing.
Taste, yeah, taste.
And and
But again, like I think you talk about rewatchability. Like this movie again, when we say that so much, like it's like for different types of movies. This one it could be for the looks, it could be for the comedy, it could be for the friendship, it could be like for the whole host of things. It has so many different aspects of why it's rewatchable, and that's the ultimate rewatchability factor. If it have a great blend of different factors like that with a great lead performance that is on the screen the entire time.
I think the Gosling performance is just a little more talky. It's a little more like quippy than the Matt Damon performance, but still both have humor in it. I just prefer the Gosling that we got here. And then I think we should talk about Rocky. The one of the most impressive things, like shot by Greg Fraser, but also minimal special, like minimal. It was mostly practical. This movie. The puppetry of Rocky. It helps in this day and age where people are critical of these blockbusters, of how fake they can look. To have someone for Gosling literally to play off of is great. And I thought, and then the movie, the way it looked, like I said, Greg Fraser is like top 3 for like my MVPs of this movie. The different shots that he had, like the kaleidoscopic type of shots that he had, I think matched well with Rocky's world, his spaceship. Uh, the scene where they go to the planet Adrian and Gosling does a backflip and he's surrounded by the astrophage that is just pink, and he's in the Petrova line, I believe, at that time. That was levitate out of my seat type of shit. I couldn't, and it comes, that was the peak of the movie for me. When you had Sandra Hüller sing Sign of the Times, and then you go to that scene, I was like, this is magic. I am watching movie magic right now. Like Greg Fraser, to me, he made a Star Wars movie. He made Rogue One, but he did that, way back when, back in 2016, 2015, 2016. And now he gets to make a true, like, okay, here's your 2001 A Space Odyssey. Like, go crazy. And I think he did. This was a feast for the eyes. And even when you have Rocky's ship go next to Gosling's ship, his orbit, his whatever, whatever, his spaceship.
Docking type situation.
When that went next to it, I was like, wow, that reminds me of stuff I've seen in classic sci-fi movies. But then he put his own twist on a couple different things. I think the kaleidoscopic thing is classic, space movie type of thing, a little bit trippy. But I thought he was incredible. One of the MVPs, no.
Yeah, it has to be, and I think it worked really well with Daniel Pemberton score, who worked on the Spider-Verse movies with
Sure.
Phil Lord and Chris Miller. And I think with the combination of the score and the Greg Fraser spatial kaleidoscope feel or look, I think it felt its scale. It felt pretty epic. It
Yeah.
felt big,
That's
and
it.
that's what, like, before the movie, when you see Greg Fraser, you're like, "Huh, Greg Fraser's doing a Phil Lord, Chris Miller, Gosling movie? Like, that seems kinda odd." He was just doing Dune, The Batman, and he's gonna do that. Like, it's just like, "Huh." But then, like you said, he put his spin on it. He definitely took some, definitely a couple odes to 2001: Space Odyssey for sure, and Phil Lord, Chris Miller, by the way, definitely were, like, again, talk about pop culture. They love pop culture. Look at the Spider-Verse movies. Look at the Jump Street movies. They had E.T. obviously on their mind here. They freaking did the Close Encounters. Ryan Gosling was humming the Close Encounters theme in this movie. Like, they were playing with pop culture all the time. So this movie, clearly, everybody from Greg Fraser, Fuller, Chris Miller, Gosling, whoever, Rocky, clearly they were paying homage to other things, taking inspiration from other things, and they made their own though. They made their own movie, to be clear. But
Right.
it worked very well, and along with the score.
Yeah, the look of the movie, you could see inspiration from others. You could feel the relationship between an alien and a human that you would see in ET, but you have a grown man here. But like that theme of isolation that you see, and needing companionship, bringing that to space. And it was just a literal, canvas for Greg Fraser to play with. It worked so well. Um, Other things here, like other cast members I wanted to talk about before we get into like the nitty gritty. We talk about the script and things like that. Like Sandra Hüller, great. Like she is so awesome.
That
Like
was perfect for this role. The German type,
you
hard,
know,
gotta make the tough decisions.
is set up like serious, high stakes, calm, cool, and collected, but has her emotional moment when she sings Sign of the Times. You hear the story that Gosling's talking about. The Sandra Hüller wouldn't do that scene unless it was Sign of the Times. And like the lyrics do make sense and what she's emphasizing when she's staring at Gosling, who's sitting, as a sad puppy in the corner drinking a beer. I thought she was great. The ending towards like, it was kind of tragic. It was kind of, not a like I would say tragic, but it was kind of like grinds my gears. Like the decision that is made later on
Betrayal,
in this movie,
betrayal.
a little bit of betrayal, but like the tough part of the job where it's like the world is at stake and what she has to do. I think a huge reveal for the movie. But we'll get into spoilers. But I thought she was amazing. Lionel Boyce, exactly what you thought he would be. When you think of the Bear, him coming in and just being a guy who's serious, but then a rah guy. Good chemistry, I think, with Gosling. But really, this when it's all said and done, it is Gosling and Rocky. But Sandra Hüller, I think was perfect for this role. And I like
Yeah.
that she's doing something that's more of a blockbuster and not a zone of interest. You know, like give me something a little more fun, but she could still play that serious, like really crack a smile type of character. I liked her in this movie.
Yeah, I did too, and we said off the top when like, I actually, I'll step back. Before, when I was talking about Greg Fraser, like, "Oh, why is he doing this movie with Phil Lord, Chris Miller, Ryan Gosling? This would probably just be a comedy space movie or whatever." But like more focused on the comedy and less, Oscar appeal, let's say, or like high art. But when Sandra Hüller joined the cast, it's like, oh, wait, this is gonna try for it. This is gonna try for a Martian,
Yeah.
and that makes sense, right? That's why like Jessica Chastain, post Zero Dark 30, post Interstellar, to be honest, goes to the Martian. You know, it's like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And thought like, oh, Ridley Scott, he could have been like doing one of those Ridley Scott movies like House of Gucci or something. He could have like pulled like one of those. But then when you see some of these names start to come part of the cast or become part of the crew, it's like, oh wait, we're gonna go for one of these movies, and that's what this movie did. And going back to the release date, then moving the release date, that made me pause. That said, oh wait, are we going back to one of these type of movies? No, they kept, especially with Amazon. That's another thing we could talk about is Amazon coming back. Huge risk for them and some MGM where they have been struggling at the box office, and for them to get this right and this risk like it's amazing. That's why like I'm grateful that this happened. Like this has been successful.
This movie could have gone in a couple different ways. You know, like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, they're on this movie. Even if Gosling's there, they are funny and they're gonna nail the Rocky character. Like Phil Lord and Chris Miller, I'm like, they're gonna get that, you know? And I know they've, because like they do the Jump Street movies, it's gonna be funny, Spider-Verse and things like that. When it comes to like this puppet, type of character, they're gonna do it right. But then to like it doesn't go off the handle because you have people like Sandra Hüller in the cast. Because it can't go off the handle, you know? And then when you have people join like Greg Fraser, you're like, we have to show appreciation for his art and what he's capable of. So like all of a sudden this movie, because of who's added to it, it becomes more legitimate. It comes more like this is a movie, along with a blockbuster, which is really cool. This I want to talk about something though. I love this movie. I do not think it's a perfect movie. And I think a huge reason why is the script, you know? And I guess you want to hop into spoilers right now? Want to do it now?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, first, I don't want to jump right to the ending, but a good decision was to have the movie go from past to present, in my opinion, where you would have Grace, the Gosling character, on Earth, and then we could do scenes in space in present day. Then we go back to like Grace developing with this program that's run by Hewler with Project Hail Mary, and then he would go back to space and meet Rocky, and then like they would go on their adventures, and then we go back to Earth. That was smart, in my opinion. You can't play it where he is on Earth for 50% of this movie. You have to introduce Rocky earlier. You got to show off Greg Fraser early in this movie. You could not do it if you played it in a consecutive or linear type of storyline. You have to cut it back and forth. I like that decision. What do you think?
I did too. I think what you said there, where this movie has to be in space. We have to
It
take
jumps
advantage
a
of it.
lot. Yeah.
And I think Lech is the one that was like a person that we were looking at to bring on here that read the book. And he was saying how the relationship between Rocky and Ryan Gosling's character Grace was going to be like the most important part of this movie, and you weren't going to get that from Earth, right? And that ended up becoming true, and that was the third act, the core of this movie, but also the key part of the third act was around this relationship. It was so that was completely on the like hammer on the nail, right on the head, whatever you want to call it, whatever the saying is, and
Hammer on the nail.
yeah, and that just couldn't have been done on Earth. Now, do I have qualms with maybe how they like? I like the flash. All right, let's talk about the flashbacks for a second. So I was again conversing with the person that read the book. So in the book, they like Grace, like in the first scene of this movie, he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know why he's there or whatever. And flashbacks are supposed to be like him regaining his memory throughout the book.
Mhm.
Here, it didn't really feel like that, and
Right.
I think they could have executed that better because by the end, he obviously has full consciousness of Oh, like he knows like how he got there clearly by the end,
He
and
went
it's like
involuntarily.
yes, right. And I think they could have hinted at that better. They could have simulated throughout the plot better with present day time. I think that could have been done better, like more clearly. There was, I think, a lot of lack of clarity around timing and some of
Couple
those
things.
like plot hole elements that I think again we don't need a lot of backstory on the character. I actually think that was like perfect for this. We just know that he's a loner. He doesn't have a lot of like he doesn't have any friends. He had a former mate, but then whatever. But I think some of the other stuff, like I was saying, like I think that is where I have a little bit of a nitpick there.
And Gosling, his acting does a lot of the heavy lifting with the backstory stuff. Like you know exactly who this guy is. Like you don't need too much. And when he's talking with Rocky about his former mate and things like that, yeah, like I didn't even need that. Like I just know this guy's life. It just felt like by the end of this movie. But I feel like at the beginning when they showed him in the ship, like they had to sell that like he doesn't know why he's there. Like it didn't feel like that, you know, because he kind of catches on really quick with what's supposed to be going on. But a problem I had is that when it's described on Earth, they do a lot of dialogue where they'll use scientific jargon and then they're going to do like a Lord and Miller humor type of example to say like this is what it means in, you know, average day terms. You got a lot of that in the first part of the movie and you couldn't like you couldn't keep like 45 minutes of that. You know, them just using scientific jargon then explaining it in normal terms. It would get really annoying if they did that. It was getting a little bit annoying prior to. But also, I got a little confused with what is the mission? You know, I got a little confused because like these three are expected to go up, you know, and they're going to face the astrophage, and we're trying to figure out something in order to basically make sure that we have the sun and that we don't have people starve on Earth and kill each other. But I was like, but all three are supposed to die, right? Like you're sentencing them to death. So, like, what was the actual mission? I thought that was kind of lost in translation between all the scientific jargon. And I don't know about you. Like, for me, it was just kind of confusing at that point. And at the end of the day, I don't care, you know, because that's kind of the point. I don't. But I thought it was just like, oh, they keep saying he's going to die if he goes up there. That's why he doesn't want to go. But, like, what were they trying to do in the first place if they're just going to go up there to die?
They got the script got a little too, oh, let me do this science jargon and then just afterwards say something that you definitely know from when you were in middle school science class, like cells,
Yeah.
like it's living after they say a bunch of jargon.
Bacteria.
It kind of got too addicted to that. They're kind of just like again, that's a kind of a filler Chris Miller, like kind of what they do is kind of like they love their comedy and they like to show off a little bit. And I think that's kind of what it was a little bit. And it just kind of there's a little too much of the jargon. And I say that, but let me just say a pro of it. I do think they understand at the end of the day, this is a hey, we're looking for a solution to save the world,
Right.
save the sun. That's all you got to know. And that's kind of what the comedy after the jargon was supposed to do. And Ryan Gosling was perfect at the delivery. He's a perfect guy for that. Versus like a movie like again, I'm my favorite director, Christopher Nolan. He wants you to know in every single movie like how exactly stuff happens. And you could question him on it, do the scientific research, and he's going to tell you, I did my homework. I know this is right. And I don't care if you get it now, you're going to go after the movie and then you could research it and double check me on it. This movie's like, don't worry about it. We're going to say a bunch of stuff and just know that the whole point is to save the world.
Right.
Right. So it's a push and a pull there because sometimes it was like, oh, I'm getting a little confused here. But at the end of the day, it's like, nah, I just got to watch Rocky and Gosling just be buddies and try to save the world.
And something I did love about the script, this moment where you have Eric from industry and they give him the accent here. He's from China or Japan, maybe China. I don't remember. But there's a moment where Gosling's talking to him when Gosling's not a part of the mission yet. And he says, I don't understand how you guys are so brave. And then he says, it's not that we're brave. It's you need someone to be brave for. And that to me made it really effective when it showed that he was forced to go on this mission. And then he has to find on his way who he's becoming brave for. He's turning back for Rocky. Like he had no one to be brave for. That's why it was so smart to have that scene where it was showing him basically being drugged and forced onto this ship because he wasn't going to be brave. He had no one. He had no immediate family. He had no partner. And I thought that was so good. And then to have that moment afterwards, him turning back to get Rocky, I'm like, this movie just came together. Like it's like freaking rolling right now. I thought because that scene is tough to watch because you see the sadness and the loneliness of this guy and how he's like, I have so much life to live. I'm a young guy, but there is not going to be a planet to live on unless I'm forced to go on this mission. I just freaking love that brave line, dude. I think that's one of the best parts of the script.
Yeah, and that's why it worked out well. And some of this character backstory, again, like not a lot, but the thing you got to know is this guy was ousted from the scientific community,
Yep.
and he was a middle school teacher, and he has no friends, no wife or anything, no kids,
Loner.
and he's a loner, right? And I think that's one thing where you're casting Ryan Gosling to be that. That's kind of a problem, especially
Yeah.
when his personality is showing on the screen. It's like, how does this guy not have any
This
friends?
guy has no
Everyone loves
friends.
this
Like he's
guy.
drinking alone at a bar, but it's like Ryan Gosling, the most charismatic guy
And
ever.
everyone, like, likes him that's on that ship, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a little problem, and Lech, the correspondent here, was telling me how in the book, Grace is nerdy and is just a loser kinda type. So it's definitely like, you need Gosling to make this movie work because he needs someone that's gonna carry a screen for 2.5 hours and play with a puppet, you know, and also talk to a camera and keep us captivated. So you need a Ryan Gosling. But again, that's kind of like you lose disbelief where like you're saying like this guy doesn't have any friends. This guy doesn't like he had one lover, but then like it's just like I don't know, one mate, I should say. So that's like another thing where it's like, oh, I guess I'm just gonna say, hey, this movie doesn't work without Gosling, so I'm gonna let that pass.
One other thing about the script I want to talk about before we go into like final strengths, flaws, and go into scores. The ending. This movie, I'm accusing it of playing with my emotions. And by the end of it, since this is spoiler section, Rocky doesn't die and Grace doesn't die. And I think if this was a perfect movie, Grace would have died, saving Rocky. And the movie would have ended after that. And then he would have saved Earth. Because they hint at his death on the whiteboard at the beginning of this movie. And I'm like, he's going to die. And it felt like this is a blockbuster feel good movie for him to survive. But there was moments where it felt like we were just taking turns where it's like, okay, now it's time for Grace to save Rocky. Now it's turn for Rocky to save Grace. Now it's Grace, Rocky, Rocky, Grace. It just kept going back and forth to the point where we've been here for 2.5 hours. End this shit. Figure it out. The whole theater has cried 4 times already. Like you got it. You like if they both survive after this, you're gonna have audience members saying that was fun, but you play with my emotions. That's exactly how I feel.
Yeah, this got really redundant real quick. I think after they go to Adrian, right? I think it was the planet Adrian, and that great sequence
Yeah,
that we talked about before. The
named after Rocky's wife.
yeah, and Rocky saves Grace, and then Grace saves Rocky. Uh, the over the course of I don't know how
And
long,
then
and then
Rocky saves Grace when he says that he can send him back to Earth.
yes, and then Grace saves Rocky again when he realizes crap, his ship is going to kill him with this stuff. And then at the very end, Rocky's going to save Grace again by sending him home if he wants to. This is incredibly redundant, very drawn out. I checked my time; it was 2 hours 15 minutes. This movie could have been over. Um, yeah, it's for a movie like this, especially pulling at your emotions throughout the movie, right? This is a world-ending movie with scale, and with one guy that you become, it's Ryan Gosling for God's sakes, you're tied to him, and especially a puppet Rocky, kind of like Grogu. People love these like animals, they love them. You can't just keep doing that and then just draw it out. Like that's why I said I felt a little tired walking out as well. So I think that's significant nitpick. It's not just a nitpick, I guess. It's a demerit, I guess. But this is a great movie. I don't, but like I think that's my biggest flaw. That's the word I'm looking for. Flaw in this movie is the last 30 minutes. I think was just redundant to hell.
And this is why I wanted to maybe ask a correspondent who's read the book, like, is it faithful in terms of this is how the book ends? Because I assume it is.
Yeah. So he told me that this is um like basically one for one. Like the
Okay.
storyline is one for one, more or less, with the book. So it's very similar to The Martian, like um, very, God, what's the word I'm looking for? It's
Positive.
yeah, positive or it respects the
Happy.
book. It respects
Faithful.
faithful. Thank you. That's what I'm looking for. Faithful to the book. Andy Weir, I think, was a part of this. like was a part of this whole thing. Like Ryan Gosling just came out this on his press tour talking about Andy Weir, saying like that he needs to like up the ante on the math and the science when he's talking about it. And Ryan Gosling's like, I don't understand it. I don't really know how to do that. I'm just gonna try my best here. So he's definitely a part of the process here. So I think that's a big reason why like you hear about J.K. Rowling, Harry Potter, like in this series, she's definitely gonna make it more faithful to the book with more details. And I think you saw that here in this movie.
And I think, and it's Gosling who secured the rights, so it's like it's cool that he has the tight relationship with Andy Weir. I like that. And the ending of this movie, I know Andy Weir has not written a sequel, but the ending kind of like hints at a potential sequel, you know? And when it, and they're like, I don't know if Weir's going to write another book, you know? And it's going to be Gosling ever goes home. But I think that life, he doesn't have a life back home. So I think it's an appropriate ending if there is no sequel. It wasn't redundant, yes. Did it take a while to get there? But I think he should be there with his best friend, and he has a life there now, and he's teaching just like he would be on Earth as he is, on Rocky's planet. So I don't think you need to make a sequel, but this is doing gangbusters, and Ryan Gosling's a star, and Andy Weir, I think, has been asked if there will be a sequel to the book. I personally just think it's right that he's on that planet. If you want to do something on that planet that's happening, and it goes into more of Rocky and Grace, maybe, but he should be on that planet. By the way you ended this, have them together. You went for the Hollywood happy ending. Good. But this is also why I'm saying it's not a perfect movie, because I mean, he shouldn't even be there. Like, he should be following through on the whiteboard, right? Like he's going to die for Rocky. If this was like that awards season release, they would have, that ending would have crushed. And now it's like, now with the March release, it kind of hints at, could we see these characters again?
Well, with the March release, I think it helps with a potential Oscars play because now people are going to love this so much, rewatch it so much, and also happy ending. It helps with the Oscars, happy endings, and also you can
Right.
rewatch it throughout the year and you could build up like we saw with Everything Everywhere at Once, April release or whatever.
Okay.
Coda, which was an early spring to summer release, right? Sinners to an extent. Um, just these happier endings that it could have been more dire because it's not during like if it was a December movie, maybe it's a little different. But now people are going to keep wanting to watch that movie and including the ending, and that's just going to build up momentum. And um, I will say because you talk about sequels, Andy Weir as teaming up with Phil Lord and Chris Miller again. By the way, I don't know if you know that
No.
they have a so he had made a book called Artemis, um,
Oh,
in like 2017 ish, and that's becoming a movie, and Phil Lord and Chris Miller are directing that.
space?
It's a space movie. I'll read the
Of
synopsis.
course it is.
They don't have anybody cast yet, so just the synopsis here. Jazz is a porter and part-time smuggler in the lunar city of Artemis. Trying to make a little extra money, she accepts a less than legal job, but ends up involved in a much bigger crime. And the writer here is Geneva Robertson Dwyer, who helped with Fallout, the TV show, Captain Marvel, the movie, and Tomb Raider.
Interesting.
But obviously, it's an Andy Weir novel, right? So Andy Weir will be helping out as well. And obviously, you already have a pre-existing relationship with Phil Lord and Chris Miller. That's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on.
Yeah. Yeah, Andy Weir. It's like Michael Lewis, where it's like Michael Lewis, like if he writes a book, it's gonna be a successful movie. Andy Weir is like in the Michael Lewis category now. Like Michael Lewis, you think Moneyball, right? Like if he writes a book and then it gets adapted, it's like automatically you got to pay attention. That's Andy Weir right now. Other strengths and flaws, like for me, I just want to go through a couple scenes that I just freaking loved. Like my favorite scene was the outside of Planet Adrian, the astrophage, with the Petrova line, Gosling doing the backflip, Rocky saying what's going on. He's like, he's just taking a moment. That felt like cinema magic. Greg Fraser peaking at that time after so many incredible shots. But at the sign of the time scene, Sandra Hüller has her moment. And if she was to do like best supporting actress campaign, that's the scene.
That's the moment. And also, I loved how they didn't do the full song. And it was great with the character saying, all right, that's enough. So
Right.
that was a great like get
Perfect.
out of jail free card, but also it actually helped with the character and the movie itself, and not just shortened it down, but to the core of the Sandra Hüller character. I love that.
And then I cried when Rocky comes back to life, and then he and Grace have a hug, and he goes right to the bubble. Grace is embracing him. That part had me in like I was a puddle. Like that was just amazing. You knew Rocky was going to pull through because we have to figure this out in terms of getting the the life, the bacteria from Adrian back to Earth and to Iridian and things like that. So that part so good. The intro between Rocky and Grace when they're dancing together. It's those scenes were so freaking good. And then just the one-liners from Rocky, the amaze, like thank you, thank you, thank you. Like the three-time repetition, the thumbs up, thumbs down, the puppetry, the decision to do that, so good. I'm so
Smart.
happy they did that. Instead of having it be CGI and
Or even like a puppet like Grogu is so obviously a puppet. This one, like, there was actually a lot of skill with it.
right. Yes. And like
Like, you could see, like, he was beat up. Like, there was definitely an
he
advancement
wasn't
of
clean.
the
Yeah.
character.
Right. He had a story on him. Like
Yes.
he had a backstory himself. Like it's not like he was just an alien that he finds. Like, and this is something too. I got a little confused on like the science behind like how they're able to communicate and stuff like that. I was like, fuck it, I don't care.
Large language model, AI.
I was just like, if I'm overthinking this movie, like you're missing the point. You're missing the boat.
Yeah,
Like it's
this
all
isn't
about
Interstellar. Like, you don't like, Phil and Chris Miller aren't Christopher Nolan trying to say, "Test me on this shit. I know my shit." Like, this is science. I promise you the docking works. I promise you the aging of the
yeah.
planets work.
We're
No,
time
this is
travel
like, "Hey, watch Ryan Gosling and a rock talk to each other."
and just cry, laugh, feel good, feel bad, learn about these people. So good.
Yeah, but
I
it still, like, has depth to it. Like, it still has depth to it. It's not just like a blockbuster popcorn movie that we sometimes review on this podcast. This has Oscar, like, aspirations as
dude,
well, and has scale, like I talked about, epicness.
Gosling is immediately in the like Michael B. Jordan just won Best Actor for a movie that came out in April. Okay, it's March 22nd. We're near April. We're post Oscars. We've seen, like I said before, this run of movies that come out, Everything Everywhere All at Once from a few years ago, right? Came out right after the Oscars, 11-month campaign. Dune Part 2, 11-month campaign. Sinners, 10-month campaign. Project Hail Mary is going to be one of the most successful blockbusters in a year of great blockbusters. It's going to have, it has Gosling, you know,
Yep.
it has Lord and Miller, Spider Verse. It's got Greg Fraser. Like, don't be surprised if this has a run, dude. Like, don't.
I think it will. I think it will. I think like, definitely, like, a lot of the below the lines, like we talked about with this, like, obviously the sci-fi elements here with Greg Fraser, cinematography, visual effects, the production design, like with the tunnel, for example,
Dude,
and
the
then inside the
spaceship,
spaceship, like,
unbelievable.
to go along with the space elements of this movie is phenomenal. So even in a year with another sci-fi movie in Dune, this is going to at least have below the lines. And then you have Ryan Gosling, who's a three-time Oscar nominee. I don't care if it's a big year because, like, you have, for example, Tom Cruise is going to be in the mix. Matt Damon is going to be in the mix for the Odyssey. Andrew Garfield's going to be in the mix. Artificial, like, you're going to have some big
Chalamet.
time studs uh, be in the mix for best lead actor at the Oscars. But Ryan Gosling might be the guy right now. Like, he's one of the guys, top A-listers. So I don't care if this is a March movie. We just saw the ending to this movie, how liked this movie is, not just critically, but just people wanting to rewatch this, wanting to see this, and also on the big screen, which could help drive a bigger audience, especially when it goes to streaming or PVOD and whatnot. Like, this is going to have a long runway, and people are going to remember this movie. They're going to remember that theatrical experience. They're going to remember Ryan Gosling, who, by the way, is going to stay in the press for another 12 months, not just because of a campaign for the Oscars. He's going to be in a Star Wars movie next year. So he's going to be everywhere still. So I'm telling you, I'm totally with you. This movie is going to be an Oscars movie. It's just how much, besides the below the line categories, is Gosling going to get the edge? Oh, because it's a stacked year. I still say yes. Will this get a Best Picture nom? Even with Dune, another sci-fi movie going to be in here, I still think yes because it's different.
Do you agree with what I said about Gosling? Do you think this is like the peak of Gosling post Sad Boy era? This might be his best performance,
I
honestly.
think it is. Who, like, ever?
Like, well, it's the peak. I think first off, I'm saying the Barbie performance, supporting performance, stole the movie, but it's Margot Robbie's movie,
Yes.
and
This is
it's
better
not
than that.
for this. And he like we talk about Chalamet, Marty Supreme, every scene shoulder in that movie. Here, Gosling, every scene shoulder in the movie. The range of emotion, insane.
The range is what's impressive here.
But also it's a movie that everyone wants to rewatch. Marty Supreme does not have that, dude. It does not.
That's what people don't like Marty Supreme, like the character, right?
Yeah.
People like this guy. That's what ended
You
up,
are
I think, hurting
rooting
him
for
with
him.
the
Like
Oscars, right? You're rooting for this guy.
this is like this movie is the thesis for what Gosling has been trying to do his second half of his career. Like
Yes.
he's trying to have his kids like he's talking about Eva Mendes and talking about like her raising the kids and like basically having stuff for them to watch and making sure that like he enjoys the movies he's making, like their positive messages. This is the thesis. This is inspiring as hell. It's funny as hell. And he is the reason primarily that it works. This is it. Like this, I would love if Gosling, I know we're 11 months away from next year's Oscars, right? Plus, but if this is the one to take him home, great. I am so happy that happens. Scores though.
Yeah.
Scores.
Yeah, wait, before we do scores, we should do a pod of like a way too early 2027 Oscars
Yeah,
and like predict like nominees.
I agree. I agree. But scores, do you want to go first?
I'm giving this a 90.
Me too.
I think there are some like I said, the third act is good. It's just drawn out and redundant. And I think there are some issues that we talked about, some nitpicks. But overall, like this is a banger of a movie. This is a banger. And like I want to see this in theaters again. Yes. And when this comes to streaming, it'll be on Prime. This is going to be rewatchable on Prime, even without the theatrical experience, because of the relationship that we see here, the Gosling element, the comedy, the emotional pull. This is something that I want to watch with my girlfriend, but I want to show my mom. Like
Yes.
I
It's
want to watch with my
accessible.
grandma, and I would show my kids if I had kids. It's for everybody, like you said off the top, and also the look of it's beautiful. I'm telling you, this movie is for everybody, and it doesn't matter what type of if you're more of a artsy fartsy type of film lover, or I love the blockbuster like slop. This is for everybody. That's why like these movies I appreciate so much. Like not, so for me, I'll give it a 90 today.
I'm giving it a 90 as well. And I anticipate the box office is going to be monstrous for the second weekend. And I say this because we talk about the rewatchability. The people that watch that in the theater and they know the ending of that movie, they're going to be saying, I'm going to go watch this with my girlfriend. I'm going
And
to go watch
they'll
this
say,
with my
"Oh, I
family."
recommend this movie more because I know you could take the ending."
Yes, exactly. I am predicting a massive second weekend.